Clinton is hoping that high-profile Democrats such as President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden will be able to give her candidacy a boost. Today, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, a darling of the progressive movement, hit the stump for the Democratic nominee in Philadelphia. In an exclusive interview this afternoon, I asked Senator Warren, once considered a possible vice presidential choice, why someone she once called a thin-skinned, racist, sexist bully, Donald Trump, is keeping this race so close. You are clearly not a particular fan of the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, and I think the feeling is mutual. Why do you think the race is so competitive? I mean, if he is, as you depict him, a racist fool, that's kind of how you depict him, why is Hillary Clinton, why is this going to be so tough for her to win? Shouldn't she be ahead by 10 or 15 points?
Look, the way I see this is that Donald Trump has tapped into something that's real. There's a lot of anger.
Something that you talk about all the time.
And I was just going to say, it's real because the game is rigged. Against hardworking people, the game is rigged. Against young people, the game is rigged. Against a lot of people who have done their dead level best, who've worked hard, who've played by the rules, and just see any chance at economic security way outside their reach. And he's tapped into how angry people feel about that, rightly angry. The problem is Donald Trump's so-called solution just heads us in the wrong direction. And so what we've got now is Donald Trump says, yeah, I get that you're angry, and let me tell you what's wrong. It's them. It's the people who don't look like you. It's the people who don't worship like you. It's about immigrants. It's about Mexicans. It's about women. It's about everybody else. It's about them. Donald Trump is about turning people against each other and telling America that's the way we're going to build a future.
But he also blames trade deals, a lot of the trade deals that you have concerns about.
But always look at then what is Donald Trump's solution to that? He's just not offering anything. He's just empty at that end. He's got nothing to say, here's how a plan, here's how it is we build a future going forward. What he's got is a bunch of secret ideas that he just doesn't want to have to tell the American people about.
What do you make of his comments about Vladimir Putin and his desire to have a better relationship with Russia?
Well, it's not just that he says, I'm going to try to have a better relationship. Come on. He's out complimenting the guy, calling him a better president than Barack Obama. And how does he know that? Because he has higher approval ratings? I mean, Saddam Hussein had higher approval ratings too. But Donald Trump needs to remember that he isn't running for dictator. He's running to be the president of a democratically elected country. And somebody who has such disdain for our military, for the work that people have tried to do in this country, he should never get within 100 miles of the White House.
When you talk about the game being rigged, Open Secrets looked at the money going to the presidential candidates, industry by industry, and when it comes to the financial industry, securities, investment, Hillary Clinton's campaign and Super PAC have raised $47 million from that industry. Only $345,000 from that industry has gone to Donald Trump. I know you don't think that these people are giving to Hillary Clinton's campaign and Super PAC out of the goodness of their heart. Does that trouble you?
Am I troubled about the influence of Wall Street in every election that happens in this country? You bet I am.
Including Hillary Clinton?
Well, but I want to be clear on this one. I think one reason you see them not giving to Donald Trump is they look around and say, Donald Trump is bad for business. A guy who is so unhinged, that guy with his finger on the nuclear trigger is not a guy who can be president of the United States. But yes, I do worry about the influence of Wall Street. Wall Street has been buying its way into Washington for decades now, and they are a big part of not only how the game is rigged, but how we ended up with the financial crisis in 2008 that was the worst since the Great Depression. We need to take this country back. And right now, money sloshing through the electoral process is making that virtually impossible. I will say this about Hillary Clinton. She has said that she will work to get money out of politics, that she is willing to lead the charge. We get a Supreme Court, you know, we're 4-4 in the Supreme Court right now. We get another chance to look at money in politics if we get a justice whose eyes are open and they're willing to consider it. So I regard the whole issue of the influence of Wall Street as very much lively, something we got to pay attention to, and something that we at least might have a fighting chance to beat back over the next few years. But it's where we got to go.
As a progressive, I know I don't need to tell you, there are a lot of progressives out there who are very suspicious of Hillary and Bill Clinton, who think that the Bill Clinton years were bad for the middle class, who think that the trade deals were bad for them. These are people who supported Bernie Sanders, who support you. Why should they support Hillary Clinton, who's been part of the system, and you've criticized her for bankruptcy bill and for other things? Why should they support her over somebody who they think might shake up the system, like a Donald Trump or a Jill Stein or a Gary Johnson?
Look, Hillary Clinton has laid out a progressive agenda. She laid it out during the primaries and she has stuck with it in the general. She has said, this is what I'm running on. The way I see it, it is the job of progressives to help her get elected on a progressive agenda and then work our rear ends off to help get that progressive agenda enacted when she is president.
And kind of be a watchdog.
You bet.
Of the Clinton administration, if there is one.
You bet.
Do you have any concerns that Clinton is, as Donald Trump depicted her, when it comes to foreign policy, too trigger happy, too militaristic, too eager to send in troops? That's a knock on her that we've heard from many progressives, and Donald Trump is repeating it as well.
Look, I want to start with the fact that hearing that from Donald Trump, who has talked about, ask the generals why we don't use our nuclear weapons more, who has talked about breaks with NATO. I mean, so we got to start with the fact that, you know, this is Donald Trump spinning in any direction he wants. But it's like every other issue that we debate in America today. We got to be vigilant. We got to be vigilant on our side. Democracy is not about electing one person and then having that one person dictate all of the terms of where we go. It's about the rest of us being part of this conversation too, and saying we worry about what's happening around the world and how it is that America can keep us safe and not escalate tensions elsewhere. I see this as this is the responsibility of all of us in a democracy. We need to be with our president as our president makes us safer and that our president genuinely and truly pursues peace, not war.